Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Brochu, and I am very honored to serve in various roles within our Student Affairs and Enrollment Division here at Regis. One of my passions that I'm looking forward to sharing with you is the admiration for our LGBTQ advocacy, education, and inclusion. And I'm a firm believer that that starts with learning about the bare bones, the really 101 learning moment of what is gender and what is sexuality. So some of you might feel nervous, maybe you're apprehensive about using the right terminology to identify the many aspects of LGBTQ+. I want you to channel that nervousness into admiration, that this is actually such a beautiful thing to have so many different ways that our loved ones, that our community identify and embrace oneself in the context of their gender, their sexual identity, and even how they express those identities. I do want to start by saying, if you're a little nervous, here's the golden rule. The expert on someone's identity is the person who holds that identity. That we don't have to be too nervous about terminology, but we need to be respectful and to first ask people and say, hey, tell me about you and how can I best embrace your identity? To compartmentalize the eclectic identities within the LGBTQ realm, I share with you a fun visual of the gender unicorn derived from the Trans Student Educational Resources. And there are so many factors of identity that are encompassed by this. And so I start with gender identity. This is an individual's sense of being. It is a deeply held sense of whether it's being a man, a woman, maybe neither. Gender identity is different from sexual orientation. And so you can see this where it's a sense of being. And so there are different terms that one can be. And this visual shows you that it's not just man or woman. There's no opposite gender because there's more than two gender identities. That's what's so awesome about all of these different items. Then there's gender expression. And so what's important here is that gender expression is that physical manifestation of one's gender identity. And a lot of this is grounded in societal norms that have been cultivated. When we think of the color pink, we automatically think about femininity because that's what we've grown up to learn. We walked into Toys R Us, we saw the pink aisle of pink toys, and we saw the blue aisle of toys that we knew based on our society, that must be for boys. And so what we're finding too is that gender expression doesn't have to be feminine or masculine. We have individuals who maybe have more of an androgynous expression where maybe they don't show a truly feminine expression, or maybe they show both feminine and masculine. There are so many characteristics that make that up, and it's really exciting for us to see that gender expression is the primary reason why we don't assume identity, because there are so many ways that we express ourselves and how we identify. Sex assigned at birth, we usually coin this as biological sex. That's the assignment and classification of an individual as male, female, and as you can see here, there's also this term intersex. One's anatomy, their hormonal makeup, and chromosomes are a few of the many ways in which sex is assigned at birth. And a doctor or nurse will assign this based on some of those aforementioned factors. It's really important to understand this piece because it is indicative of that trans experience. Those who are trans or gender not conforming may find that their sex assigned at birth doesn't align with their gender identity. That's where the term trans comes from, in the sense that we have all assumed that everyone is cisgender, which means that someone's gender identity aligns with the sex that was assigned at birth, when it's far more complex. Some are intersex, where those chromosomes or the other hormonal pieces don't only align with that female or that male sex assignment. Then we see physical attraction and emotional attraction separate from each other, because these are two different things. And that's where often we also assume, well, a man is attracted to a woman, or X and Y. And really, there's just so much more fluidity there. We find that individuals may be attracted emotionally to men, women, anyone of what have you, identity of gender, where it doesn't have to just be those two items. And so we talked about all of these areas: gender identity, gender expression. And with that in mind, it's really important, first and foremost, to note that gender and sex are no longer interchangeable. They never were interchangeable. And we have to really make sure we're mindful of that and all of the intricacies that come into play. That's why it's so important to first ask and really check in with our loved ones and our neighbors to see how can we embrace their identity instead of assuming identity, because it is so complex, but that's what makes it beautiful. I could share with you all the terminology. I could go through each term, whether that is, delving deeper into what the term bisexual, intersex, asexual is. All of these terms are so important. I encourage you to do that research. But the biggest piece I'll leave you with is that identity terminology, it's fluid and relative. That someone's identity, they are the keeper of that. They are the ones who can say, I identify as trans, or I identify as an ally. That is their identity. And no matter how much research you've done on a term, it's great for your context, but the person who holds that identity is the expert on their identity. And it's in our best interest to really respect that and embrace that. And so make sure to do all that good research and keep in the know, because that's how we really work to be an ally for our loved ones of all, all that are under that LGBTQ plus community. There are so many resources at Regis, whether that is PRISM, GSA, even our Mosaic counseling support, which specifically provides that support for our LGBTQ community. And also we have an entire website geared towards more of these resources, learning more about terms that embrace the gender identity, the gender expression, all those components we talked about. And finally, make sure to update your contact information through Regis Hub and self-service. This allows us to have a full picture of our community, where by having that information, we can better design and implement programs and resources for our entire student body, not just those of the majority. And with that, I thank you for joining me, and keep the awesome learning, and know that in the times that you're feeling nervous about the terminology, take that as an opportunity to learn and to be really in awe of the beauty of identity and diversity. Thanks so much.